Everybody, Patty Ann here. Hang on just a sec. You know, I always need a sip of my coffee. Today I'm going to show you an easy peasy way to make masks since it's been recommended that we wear them if we go out. This one is really easy. I've sewn for a long time and some of the ones I've been looking at look really difficult to me, the directions do. So I thought I'd just tell you an easy one to make, in my opinion. This is just a piece of fabric that you cut that it will be 8 inches wide by 14 inches long. And you can cut 2 of these if you want to. I only have cut 1 because what I've put on the other side of mine is some interfacing, some non-woven iron-on or fusible interfacing. And that just makes another layer in here, and it's good to have a non-woven one because that helps protect you a little bit more even. Remember, these aren't going to protect you for the COVID virus, but it is recommended that we wear these when we go outside. So the first thing that you do after you've ironed on your interfacing, if that's what you're going to use, is to turn this the right side up and then fold it in half like this, matching up these pretty ends right here. The pretty ends are touching, just like that. And you can kind of press this down with your finger if you want to. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come right over here to my sewing machine. And let's see if I can get it so you can see it a little bit. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece that I just folded in half, and I'm going to take a seam or stitch a seam down where the opening is. And I'm going to make it about 1/4 of an inch seam. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. If you like perfect directions and very, very exact things, I might frustrate you a little bit because usually for me in a lot of my projects, close enough is good enough. And in this case, it will certainly be good enough. So let's go ahead and make our first seam, which is going to be 1/4 of an inch seam. You can use any kind of sewing machine you might have. I even have a treadle machine that I could use to make these if I wanted to. A treadle machine is one of those ones that you just use the foot pedal like this. There's no electricity, and it just runs by your foot power or your leg power. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go forward a few stitches and then hit my reverse button, go back, and then go forward again. So I'm just going to go all the way down here, and again I'm making 1/4 of an inch seam approximately. And I can go back. Alright, so after that's done, the next thing that I do is I'm just going to come back down here and I'm going to press this. I'm going to press it just in one direction. I'm not going to try to open my seam. Just in one direction I'm going to press it like that. And then after I've done that, all I'm going to do is turn this right side out. And I'm going to press it so that this seam right here will be nice and flat. Like that. Press it on the other side too. Whoopsie. And then I can press it up here where the fold is also. Alright, so that's ready to go now. The next thing that I could do if I wanted to on this is to go ahead and make my pleats. Now you've probably seen directions where they have you measure things and there's all these dotted lines and cut lines and whatnot. Well, I just do mine by the eye, and you can too. These pleats are just to make a place, let me show you one, where your nose goes, okay? So, for example, this goes around the back of the head, and the nose will go right here. I have a piece of wire in here that I can form it, and these pleats just open up like this to give you space. So it doesn't matter that they're any kind of perfect spaced or anything like that, just roughly, right? So, here I have this. I'm going to go down about an inch, you heard me say that, And I'm just going to go ahead, stick my index fingers under here, under all of it, pinch with my thumb, and pull up, and then using my middle finger, just kind of making a fold like that. And there is my first pleat, just like that. Okay. So you can use a pin to hold that in place until you stitch it, or I have these little clips. You probably don't have these little clips, but and a pin works just as well. Or you know what? If you don't even have a pin, how about a bobby pin or something like that, or a hair clip? All you want to do is hold this in place until you stitch it. So then I'm going to come down about 1/4 of an inch, do the same thing again, kind of pinch it apart, and then squish it down like that. Perfect. There's pleat number 2. And again, I can use these little things if I want to. And for pleat number 3, same thing, about 1/4 of an inch underneath the other one. I'm just going to go ahead and pinch and click, kind of pinch and pull, and then fit this down right like that. So the only thing that the instructions do say is try to make sure that this piece from here to here measures 3 inches when you're done. And I have a feeling that mine may not, 3 or 3.5 inches. So I'm going to measure it as soon as I get done here. Where's my last clip? Yeah. So the only thing you want to make sure is that from here to here measures about 3 or 3.5 inches. So here's the 3-inch mark, and mine is just barely 3 inches. So what I could do if I wanted to is just kind of just move this one up a little bit, or I could just start all over again, right? Just because I want to make it about 3 or 3.5 inches, and that was exactly 3. So again, I'm going to start with the seam, with the folded edge at the top, just come down like that. There is my first pleat, just like that. Okay, and again, take my little clip or a pin, put it here, go right across, and put it here. Do it again, pinch, pleat, and go down. There we go. I like to try to make them a little bit even, so I stick my finger in here just to see if it's about the same size. But again, that won't matter. This is just to make it fit on your face well. It's not that big a deal to be all panicky about it, like that. And remember now, you're going to be able to make these things if you have fabric, out of fabric. If you don't have fabric, why not make it out of a shirt that you might have? Perhaps you have a man's business shirt or something like that, 100% cotton around the house. It looks like it's really well, really tightly woven, and you can use several layers of that. Or you can use a pillowcase. Pillowcases are perfect because in general they have a lot of threads per inch, which makes it especially good. So there's the 3-inch mark again. So I ended up at 3 inches again. So I'm just going to leave it like that because that is going to work just like that. So the next thing I'm going to have to do now is come back over to my sewing machine. So let me bring you over here for a sec. Right here. Okay. And I'm just going to bring this up here. Move my... There we go. And I'm just going to do 1/4 of an inch, a little less than 1/4 of an inch actually, right here on this edge. So I'm going to start not at the very tippy top because I don't want to close the top. So I'm going to start right about right there. And I'm going to take out the first clip and throw it over here in the box and just start sewing. And I'll take out the second one. And then I'll finally take out the third. So all I'm doing right now is sort of an easy stitch just to hold together the pleats. So I don't have to worry. I do like to make sure I snip all of these threads off close so that they don't make a mess later. There we go. So that side's done. So now I'll turn it over and just do this side. Remember, it's a little less than 1/4 of an inch, but whatever. If you do it a little over 1/4 of an inch, that just means that the stitching might show. Oh heavens, who cares, right? With my iron. There we go, move this one out. So I'm just holding these in place and just taking these out and stitching down. Perfect, just like that. That's all we need to do. So that just held those pleats right in place for us. And let me show you. So if this was going on someone's face, it would just go on like that. Whoopsie, can you see? I can pop them back down like this. And then, this is just going to go in like this. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the space for the wire, okay? The wire is going to also go on the piece that has the folded edge, not the sewn edge. So what I'm going to do is I know that my thread, or my piece of wire that I have is 4 inches long. So since this is 8 inches wide, I'm going to go in 2 inches on this side and make a mark, in 2 inches on this side and make a mark. I usually use a friction pen or a pencil. Let's hope this is going to show up. It will show up right here just fine. There's the 2 inches from this side. I'm not so sure about this side though. Let's see. 2 inches from this side. So it's going to be right where that, right there. All right. So that's going to be where I'm going to be putting in my wire. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take right here and I'm going to sew down about 1/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to sew straight across until I get to the other mark, and then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to sew up because I want to be able to feed my wire in through here. So again, let's go over to my sewing machine here, and I'm going to start at that one little mark that I made there. I'm going to sew down, and I think I'll just go ahead and reverse and sew down again. And right about there, or maybe one back, I think. Okay, there, I think there is good. I'm going to go ahead and go across 1/4 of an inch about, and the place that I was going to stop, I think, was, where was it? Well, I can't tell for sure. I need a white pencil, but you know what? I can just look. Okay, so I can see that it's right here, right there where that red part matches. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch down here. And then I'll just backstitch and take that out. Uh-oh, I must have run out of bobbin thread. Hang on. Okay, I went ahead and changed my bobbin, added a bobbin thread, and then went ahead and finished stitching this. So the next thing that I do is I usually get a piece of wire. Now the wire that I've been using up until, well, until now is this wire that I have that's a cloth color covered wire. It does have pointy edges though, and I usually make my wire pieces about 4 inches long. So I'll go from here, let's see, to here. So I'm going to cut this one. I have some wire cutters. If you don't have any of your own, perhaps you know somebody in your house that has some. I have my own toolbox, so I'm good. Okay, there's my 4-inch piece. If you don't have wire like that, you can use jumbo paper clips. I've heard people say to use the wire bread ties, but I don't know. I would take the paper off of those if there was paper on them, because the paper, when you wash these masks, it would kind of shred up and get icky in there. So I'd take the paper off first. But you can also use these jumbo paper clips. In my opinion, they're a little tiny bit stiff. So I'm wondering if regular paper clips would work just as well. But again, I would cut this off at about 4 inches right here using wire cutters. I saw somebody using her scissors. Just cut that off like that. Throw this piece away. And then the next thing that you do is you just feed it through the little trough that you made right here. That's why you left the opening on one side. So you could go ahead and just feed it right through like this. Now I've seen some people that curl the edges of these things, but I didn't really like to curl the edges of mine. See, did I make that a little bit too long? Just a hair. But I'll just go ahead and mark here. It's the end of this black line right there where the white starts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my sewing machine again and very carefully, usually what I like to do is to just turn the flywheel or the wheel by hand first so I can make sure I'm not going to be running over a piece of metal and breaking my needle. So I'm just going to turn this slowly by hand, making sure that I'll get through that area. And once I know I can get through, then I'll just hit the back. And where is my, there it is. Hey. Something wasn't working right, so let me fix this right quick. Pull this out. Okay, let's see. Try this again. I'm not sure. Turn this off and then back on. I think I might have touched a button I didn't really want to. There we go. And I'll move my needle back over to where I like it. And now I'm going to feel again with my finger right there so that I can try this again with turning the wheel by hand like that to make sure I'm not going to hit that metal. Then I can do a few stitches forward and then some back, and now another set forward, and then I'll just put my needle down and pivot, and this time I'm just going to make it come over and meet this row stitching over here. And once it meets it, I can just go ahead and backspace and front space. There we go. Just like that. Got it a little tiny bit crooked, but that's okay. Alright, so that's going to hold that in place just like that. And this is the side that would actually be the front, where the stitch it, where the what do you call it? Pleats are going down. So just do that. The nose would go right in here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the part that I think is a little bit different, because I'm going to have you do something. I didn't make this up, but I learned it a long time ago. And if you don't have any special tools to make bias tape, and this doesn't have to be bias tape since it's going around a non-rounded area, but it will need to have the edges enclosed, whoopsie, so that the raw edges aren't peeking out. So what I've done is I've placed a pin here, a pin. And first thing I did was I made 2 dots that were 3/4 of an inch apart. That measurement works if you're using a strip that's 1.5 inches wide. And that's what I said to cut our strips at in the beginning. These are 1.5 inches by about 34 inches. So if this is a 1.5 inch strip, then I make 2 dots on my ironing board that are, and actually I think I'm going to do it a different way this time. I'm going to do it another way to make it easier on myself. So I've got my pin needle right there. Let me get this thing back out and make my dots again. So I'm going to make them, here's one can be right here, and the other one will be 3/4 of an inch away from that one. So it's easy for me to measure here. Let's see, here's 3/4 line. Put that there and mark this right here. Okay, so I have my 2 dots marked. So I'm going to take my pin now, and what I'm going to do is before I get to that little dot there, I'm going to go inside of my ironing board cover and come out right by that dot. And then I'm going to scroll way, I need to try to come out right at that dot. Okay, there we go. I'm going to scroll way over here, not letting my pin go in, till I get to this dot, and then I'm going to go just dig it down into my ironing board cover like that. And that's the tool that we're going to use. It's going to help us to make this tie. So we start out with a tie that's 1.5, as I said, by 34. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it in half like this and finger press it. Just like this with my fingernail. Press it. Okay? That just makes a little press mark so I can see. Then I'm going to fold this piece in and this piece in. Now it's recommended when you make this thing that you do this the whole way along your piece. But I'm going to show you, as soon as I can get my iron out, an easier way to do it. So we're just going to start it this way. So again, I folded the piece in half, and then I folded the pieces in to meet it. So here it was. Folded it in half like this, and then I moved this piece into the middle and this piece into the middle, just like that. Okay. The next, and then I ironed those, and I'm going to straighten them out a little bit because I got them a little bit cockeyed. I'm going to iron this first little bit exactly right. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, you remember that pin that we put down here? I'm going to slip this underneath of that pin, just like this. And I'm going to pull this through, like so. Perfect, just like that. Now this piece, the long tail end, I like to have that hanging off the edge of my ironing board if possible. So the next thing I do is I just start pulling this through here about maybe about 10 inches. And you see what that's doing? It's automatically folding it in the way I needed it to be folded in. So I can just take my iron there and press it down then. And it doesn't matter, for those of you who like to be exact, this is going to drive you nuts. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. This is just so we have the raw edges enclosed. So again, I can go ahead and pull about, 5 more inches or so. And then once I've pulled that, I can press it. Just like that. Isn't that easy? I love this. Okay? So you don't have to have any special tools. Pull it again. Once you get quite a bit through and you feel comfortable, you can start pressing. You can use your regular iron. I just have this little guy. Any iron will work. Even your little mini easy press. And this, pull through. Look, it's going a little bit cockeyed. And I can try to straighten it out a little bit, but it really, really doesn't matter much. It does not have to be perfect. This is a mask. These are the straps. We are just trying to make it so that the outer edges or the raw edges are enclosed. So again, pull through and press or iron like that. Pull through and iron. And if ever you don't like it at all because you think it's really off, you can pull it out and do it that part again. But I really didn't need to. Let me press this part. Whoops. Too much gusto. Okay, and pull it out and press. And pull it out all the way to the very end. Maybe I won't go that far. Press. And then after you get this part done, you're going to do the next part, which involves folding it in half. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is this. You grab this end again. And let's see, do I like to work this way or this? I think I like to work and have it dragging out to my left since I'm right-handed. So I put these two pieces together, move this out of the way, on the other side of my iron, and then make sure the edges are meeting and just press this. Now, this is just to kind of train it to go the way you want it to go. Doesn't matter if it stays shut totally by itself, because you're going to be stitching this down. And it's really easy. So I'll do both sides of this, whoopsie, strap the same way. So again, just pressing it down, Again, I'm just kind of making it go in the middle, so notice how that's putting both of those raw edges exactly in the center of this tie. And that's how I wanted it to be. So no raw edges will be shown. Okay, and so just to refresh your memory, what we started out with were 2 strips that are 1.5 inches wide by approximately 34 inches long. And then we folded it in half, but I'm going to show you that again now because this one's done. I'm going to put it around my neck and get it out of the way. So here's the next one. We need 2. So again, what I'm going to do is just start it out by coming here and folding it and just finger pressing it. That's all I need to do, just finger press. Then I'm going to move this side into here and this side into here. And I could finger press it again if I wanted to, but I'll just bring my iron over, trying not to burn my little fingers, and I press that. So I'm giving this a pretty good press because this is going to go underneath my little thing. Now remember about my pin. My pin, again, just a straight pin, just an ordinary straight pin. I've marked 2 dots, 3/4 of an inch apart. Here's one on the line, one here. And I only make them 3/4 when I'm using an 1.5 inch wide strip. 1.5 inch wide strip as the directions called for. 3/4 of an inch the dots are apart. Take your pin, put it through your ironing board cover. You just have to get a couple of threads and have it come up right before the little dot you made, just like that. It's in there. Then you're going to travel right across and have it go right down in this other dot you made, just like that. And there is your tool that you can use to do this. Then you just slide this under. Just take one side, one corner, slide it under. Hand's probably in the way, and then just, oopsie, keep pulling until that other side comes out with it. Whoops, I pulled it back out. So start again. So again, I'm just going to slide one side under, one tip, one little edge under there, pull until the other side comes out with it, just like that. Then I'm ready to start going, and this long tail is hanging off the edge of my ironing board because that seems to make it go a little bit better to me. And you actually can put your finger in between here too if you like to when you're pulling it. And once you've got it pulled through, you press it. So you pull it through maybe 5 inches or 10 inches, whatever you feel comfortable with. Then again, you pull more inches through, and I can hold this edge up here if I want to and just kind of press that down. So you're kind of making bias tape, but it's not bias tape because I didn't cut this piece on the bias, if you know what that means. But we don't need bias tape for this project. I'll pull it through, and I can hold up here again if I want to and just press it down. Okay. Again, pull through, press down. Whoopsie. Pull it through. Press down. I can see lots of birds out my window here while I'm working. I don't know if you're familiar with the towhee, but they're very pretty birds, I think. Look them up sometime if you want. Well, the song that they seem to sing, it sounds like they're saying, drink your tea. drink your tea. Probably can't hear them through the window. So I'm getting close to the edge, and it starts getting a little funky down here sometimes, so I gotta just kind of finger it a little bit and make sure it cooperates. If you can hear a bird singing, it may sound like it's saying tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle. That bird is a Carolina wren. I think it's cool that even though all this junk's going on in the world around us, the birds just go about their business as they always do. Not a care for them in the world. Mr. and Mrs. Towey are out right outside the window, the male and the female. Okay, so this is finished up to this point. Now the only other thing I have to do is to fold it in half, and we're ready to finish up our mask. So we didn't need elastic, which you can't get anywhere. We didn't need to buy packages of tape, which the stores aren't open anyway. You can simply use a pillowcase, and you'll be able to get several, I think two, probably at least, masks out of it. The thing that's nice about pillowcases is that they are usually really tightly woven, the fabric is. So that's probably, a good choice. Another fabric choice to use if you happen to have a lot of fabric might be batik fabric, if you're familiar with that. Batik fabric is oftentimes more closely woven than this quilter's cotton that I'm using. As I said, I made my quilter's cotton a little bit more thick or something by adding a layer of fusible interfacing. If you don't have that, you could try doing 2 layers of this. Although, I don't know if you've ever watched any quilting by Jenny Doan from Missouri Star Quilt Company. Jenny was showing how to make, excuse me, a mask like this, and she just used 1 layer of quilter's cotton and 1 layer of flannel. Now, I've heard that flannel is nice because it's really soft, but I don't know that it's any more tightly woven than the fabric that I'm using. Matter of fact, it may seem like it is because it's fuzzy and you can't see the weave, but that is just the finish on flannel from what I've been told. Okay, at any rate, we're ready for the next step. 2 of these to sew on, easy peasy, and we will be done. So the first thing I do is just find the center. Once I found the center, I'm going to take my mask, kind of find the center of that. Again, it's not really crucial to worry too much. So what you do is you open this up like this. You're going to stick the mask in until this edge of it meets the center, and then you're going to fold this over. So what that's going to do, it's going to make a nice finished edge on this side as well as on this side. Now, you can pin this in place. I like to use these things just because sometimes I feel like I have real butterfingers when I'm using pins, especially when I'm videotaping myself. So I like to use these little clippy things, but pins will work just as well. You're just holding this in place until you get down to this area to sew. If you don't have pins and you don't have clips, maybe you have bobby pins, or maybe you have hair clips that you could use of some sort, just to hold this in place until you get down to here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back over to my sewing machine over here, and I'm just going to start, move these tools out of the way so I don't knock them over. I'm going to start at the top of my tie. Remember, it's already folded for me, so I'm just going to put it right in here, and I'm going to line up the inner edge of my presser foot. Now, my foot right here, don't worry about it. You just, what you want to do, the object is to just sew a little bit, maybe a 1/8 of an inch or something like that over here. But as long as you grab both sides and sew on both sides, you're golden. Okay, it's going to be fine. So figure out a way to measure it up on your machine so that you're maybe about 1/8 of an inch in, or maybe even not a quarter, probably 1/8 of an inch would be best. So for me to do that, I line it up with the inside edge of my presser foot, and I move my needle all the way over to the left, and then I just start sewing. And I'll start, then I'm going to backstitch as I've done before, and then I'll just start rolling. So again, I'm just making sure that this stays lined up with whatever line I wanted it to stay, and I'm just going ahead and stitching. See how nice that looks? And it's getting both sides. None of the raw edges will show. Not to worry about anything. Okay, when I get down here close to the mask, I'm going to start slowing down just a little bit. When I get to where the tie meets the mask, I'm going to sew over that back stitch and then come forward again, just to add a little bit of extra protection in case someone ties or unties your mask with great gusto. So I'm going there, going to back stitch and go again, just like that. Easy peasy. Every time I go to throw one of these clips, I almost throw it into my coffee cup. Again, I'm coming to the end where the tie meets the mask, so I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to backstitch and go again. And I'll just continue on. And I'm just making sure that I keep these edges together like that. It's really easy. Remember, we're still supposed to keep our distance from people. Just because you have on a mask doesn't mean you're protected, because these masks are not the really, really, really good ones that they use in the hospitals. These are to help protect us and help protect the people around us, but we still need to keep our distance from everyone else. I got some scragglies here I'm going to cut off. All right, so that side is totally done. I like to check and make sure that nothing got missed. So now all we need to do is the other side. So I just get the other one that I have here, and again I'll figure out where is the center. Here's the center roughly. I'm going to put that around the center area-ish of my mask. So again, you can see what I'm doing. I've kind of opened up this, not all four sides, just the two edges like this. And I'm going to stick this right in here, right up to the middle, and then fold this over like that. Again, I can pin it, or I can use the clips that I have. I like to use these clips because, like I said, sometimes my fingers get a little shaky, especially if I'm videoing. There we go. So again, I'm just going to start at the top, and then this mask is going to be done. So let me finish this up for you and show you. So again, I'm going to come up to the top of this, fold it in half like it's already been kind of trained to do, and thread where I want it, and just start sewing, and then I'll backstitch some, lining up to make sure both of these sides are even. Again, I'm starting to get close to where the mask is. So when I get really close, I'm going to take one of these off, and then I'm going to stitch up to it, and then I'm going to backstitch and stitch again. That's just to make sure that it's extra protected or safe there with stitching so it doesn't come loose. Okay, and remember there are guidelines on how to put these on and how to take them off. These should be washable and dryable in your washer and dryer. However, I was reading online that you can also just wash them by hand in the sink with good soap and water. You know, that kills the germs on our hands, so it would kill the germs on your mask as well. Remember not to take this off when you're out in public if you have it on. Leave it on until you get home. Let's see, what else have I read? And of course, once you do take it off, immediately put it in the dirty clothes or into a sink full of hot water or a bowl of hot water with soap in it. Doesn't have to be boiling water. And just wash it. And then make sure that you really wash your hands well also. So I hope everybody is staying safe. We're all doing well here. And if by chance you're going over this and you notice you missed the little spot somehow, not to worry, just go back and redo that little spot. Not a problem. I've made some of these for some of my friends, and I did recommend that they wash them before they use them. From what I understand, when you use this thing, you put it on so that the pleats are facing downward, so this would be the front of it. And it goes around like this. They would fix it to fit their nose and pop this out like this, and that would go back around the upper part of their head like this and around their neck with this piece. So that's pretty much it. The only other thing that I would probably do now is to just give this a little press just to make it look nice. So I could go ahead with my iron and just press this, kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then on the other side as well. So far I've made 4 of these, and you saw how long it took. It's not that bad, and I think they're super cute. And again, like I said, if you don't have fabric, you can use pillowcases or sheets or an old shirt that is really tightly woven plastic, tightly woven cotton, 100% cotton. I've heard people say they use t-shirts, but I don't understand that. I think t-shirts are not very closely woven. So thanks for joining me, guys. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me tell you one more time. The first piece started out as 8 by 14, and I folded that in half and began the process. So see you again soon. Be safe. Love you guys. Bye-bye.